Hey everybody, my name's Quin. Currently building PTAL, especially in Web3 gaming. Everybody wants to buy attention right now, and I think that's why questing platforms are succeeding. People have marketing budget. People want to use that marketing budget to buy attention. It Takes Two I've been playing through with my girlfriend recently. It's one of the best co-op games I've ever played. It's got to be Jiho, hands down. He's the best community builder in the space. One thing that we're wondering is, maybe bots are okay. It's like a dirty little secret that the space doesn't want to admit to itself, but everybody kind of knows in their heart of hearts that there's just a lot of bots here.
Hey everyone, welcome to the second episode of the Marketing Gems Podcast by Intract. This is your host Apur from the Intract team, and today we have someone very exciting, someone with whom we had our very first AMA back in the day, Quin Campbell, who is currently the co-founder of PTAL. And I'll let Quin introduce himself before we jump into this interesting podcast. Over to you, Quin.
Thanks, Apur. Yeah. Hey everybody, my name's Quin, as Apur said. I'm currently building PTAL, which is a Web3 advertising exchange. So it's kind of an attention DEX for buying and selling attention in Web3.
I think I love that pitch about, calling it an attention DEX, right? You talked about to me earlier, but maybe you can just elaborate a bit more on what that means for a normal marketer, maybe.
Yeah, so especially in Web3 gaming, everybody wants to buy attention right now, and I think that's why questing platforms are succeeding. There's a lot of agencies out there that help as well. People have marketing budget. People want to use that marketing budget to buy attention. A attention DEX is about connecting the people who want to buy attention with the other side of the market, which is the people who have attention and want to sell that attention. So in a Web 2 sense, oftentimes it's Facebook, it's Google, it's Reddit. It's all the ad networks that you can think of. In a Web 3 sense, there's also some Web 3 ad networks as well coming out, as well as just a number of publishers and dApps that are willing to sell their attention. We want to sit in the middle and help to make this marketplace happen.
Got it. Very interesting. I think the way you mentioned about basically attention is an asset, being the liquidity that's been getting pooled in the DEX. Got it. Cool. Anyways, guys, let's jump into the podcast, right? And we have some very interesting questions for Quin here. The first format will be like a rapid fire, very quick, answers, Quin. The first thing that comes in your mind, even if it's controversial, totally okay with that, right? And then we have like the second part of the podcast where we go a little deeper into some growth nuggets that, you can advise some of the Web3 growth marketers with in the gaming space and otherwise as well. So yeah. So let's get started. The very first question essentially for you is an upcoming Web3 game that will set the stage on fire.
Party icons.
Why do you think so?
It's an entirely new gameplay. So it's a party shooter. There's 4 teams of 2 playing this shooter that has extraction mechanics, looting mechanics as well. There's a 9th player that plays as God mode. So this has a top-down view and is able to pull levers and play mechanics that actually influence the entire gameplay. The polish on the game's absolutely incredible. Actually, closed beta launches next month, so everybody sit tight.
Nice. Party icons. Definitely going to try to get an access for it soon as well. Yeah. The next one. A Web 2 game that you love for its gameplay.
I'm going to name 3. It Takes Two. It Takes Two I've been playing through with my girlfriend recently. It's one of the best co-op games I've ever played. God of War, I know how basic that is, but that is my favorite game of all time. And then Baba Is You is a really cool puzzle gameplay on Switch.
Okay. I think I've heard about the third one, but not about the other 2. Maybe it's time for all of us to check them out.
I think so.
The next one, right? Who is your go-to gaming growth guru? And I know it's kind of like a paradoxical question because in my head you are that guru for me, but who is yours?
I appreciate that. It's got to be Jiho, hands down. Co-founder and growth lead at Sky Mavis, Axie Infinity, Ronin Network. They've done it 3 times, and he's the best community builder in the space.
Yeah, I think I love Axie. I think they recently released their extension, right? And I think things have started heating up quite well.
Axie Pals, it's very exciting.
Yeah, makes sense. The next one, and this is by the way my favorite gaming community, Volsdao. I know you must be following them. Who is your favorite Volsdao member?
It's Kathleen, who's also at Ronin ecosystem and is building out the entire ecosystem there.
Ah, nice. What exactly does Kathleen do at Volsdao? Like, is she like leading something there specifically?
She's a member for sure. I don't know how involved she is, but she spends all her time building the Ronin ecosystem. All of the projects, games, everything that's come under Ronin has been Kathleen has powered.
Wow. Okay, maybe I'll slide into a DM later to get
for
a contact. The last one in the rapid fire round. the gaming chain that is poised to give good competition to Ronin. And I made sure I mentioned Ronin out front. What else outside of that?
I think realistically there isn't one. Realistically there isn't. And you can see this. Ronin is stealing games from every other chain out there. 7 new games just launched on Ronin, and a handful of them came from Base, came from Solana. So Ronin has taken immutable games before. I think Ronin is the king of gaming chains.
Got it. So you're like a Ronin maxi. Well,
That's
basically
right.
I am too when it comes to gaming. Yeah. Awesome. So that kind of wraps up our rapid fire round. Quickly jumping into the last 3 questions that are kind of more detailed. So take your time to answering them as well, right? So the first question, and I know Axie kind of pioneered the play to, earn era. And then, there's been a lot of evolution in the Web3 gaming space. But what are the 3 major changes that you've seen in this ecosystem since that crazy play to earn era that started back in 2021?
We've seen an evolution of how tokens are distributed. It's now obviously the play to airdrop campaigns, which are slightly more sustainable because they're kind of closed end and short term. I think we'll continue to see that for now. And games launching these days should continue to try to work on this type of mechanic. We saw a big swing away from play to earn in like 2022, and everybody stopped using that branding and pivoted towards like play and earn, and then even taking that out entirely. And now come 2024, we've swung back towards embracing that again, and I think it's very healthy. If we look at what value is blockchain actually bringing to Web3 games, you have areas like MMORPGs where it is really serious to have your own assets on chain. But outside of that, blockchain does bring earning mechanics, and it brings speculation. And I think that we kind of failed ourselves, me included, for a couple of years, where we tried to say that Web3 gaming wasn't about those types of mechanics. And so now, like I said, in this year, we've seen a solid swing back towards that. And a great example is a studio called Uncharted. Uncharted.gg is their website, founded by a couple of really, really badass co-founders, one of whom's ex-Immutable, was very early hire there and built a lot of the gaming studios there. The entire thesis of Uncharted is that Web3 games should be about speculation, and they should be about the ability to earn money. Fully embracing it, just do it in a sustainable way. And so they're building their entire gameplay and core loops and mechanics around how to actually provide earnings to the players who deserve it in game, which is really cool. And, we're seeing like some more GambleFi mechanics coming out as well. There's a lot of games that are adding things like wager matches to their gameplays. There's a lot of cool new platforms. Wager matches, Goat Gaming is awesome. I've been following them closely. It's Telegram game now. These guys are the guys that built Butter Royale originally, which was a massive iOS game, like I think 6 or 7 years ago. They've now built an entire ecosystem based as a Telegram gaming ecosystem that has wager matches and betting as a core loop within it. So I think these kinds of things are awesome. It's this pivot back towards what value does Web3 actually bring to gaming, and people are embracing it now.
Makes sense. I have a follow-up question. Maybe after the deep dives I've gotten over, I'll get to it, right? It's like a question just from my curiosity. The next one, right? And this is, I think we have already touched like the whole play to airdrop meta that has, been on fire in the last quarter or like the half year of this year. But now I think again it has slowed down. So, and I have done quite a bit of reading about play to airdrop, specifically from, Volstyle, the kind of, content they post, right? So what do you think is like some of the major requirements or healthy signs of a successful play to airdrop campaigns? And maybe you can also mention a few games, right, that have actually done it quite well.
It really depends how success is measured. We're a very interesting space. Realistically, the space is largely overfunded. There's a lot of projects out there, a lot of projects that have a ton of money, and it's all basically investor cash that needs to be deployed, into some place. And not all, maybe some of these projects aren't even super healthy projects and would be zombie projects otherwise. And so it's a very real conversation to have with yourself as a team around what is success. Because the truth is there's a lot of platforms out there that can bring really great vanity metrics to your game. I mean, a lot of platforms can pump a lot of users through it, and you might pay something like $2 per user or something like that. And if that's how you need to deploy your cash, then that's a Play to Airdrop campaign can work really, really great for that. And I'm not knocking it. It's just interesting. Otherwise, it is tough to design a Play to Airdrop campaign that will actually lead to long-term lock-in, positive LTV users that are acquired through the campaign. I'm not sure we've seen a hell of a lot of places do it. Pixels comes to mind. They were an early Play to Airdrop game. They may have even been the team that kind of minted that term. And I will say Pixel's Play to Airdrop campaign was probably a success in so far as the human beings that participated stuck around. So that did work. But the other aspect there is botting. And I think there was a lot of botting activity there too. So it's not a perfect meta. It's just the best meta that we have right now.
I think we have evolved quite a lot, right? From just ICOs to P2E to P2A. So I think in the right direction, you're probably focusing more on making sure that users stick, users build that brand affinity with you as a brand before they actually get rewarded. And those rewards also are more sustainable, more long term, in smaller chunks, kind of like seasons, right?
Yeah. Apurv, what are you looking at? Are you seeing any interesting Play to Airdrop designs out there recently?
So we've been in touch with this company called as Monetize. I think Vader kind of is leading that, and they kind of are helping us think through how we can do better analytics of the kind of airdrop quests and campaigns that launch on us. A couple of them are gaming, but primarily still more DeFi focused, right? And I think that's been one of our key areas of focus, basically modeling the incentive to the right users and making sure that bots are eliminated, but not just bots, going beyond that to even look at past token holding history, past interaction history, to kind of make a sense of, is that user here just for the airdrop or more meaningful activity. We've always been more analytics driven, so that's been the natural, I'll say, direction that we have gravitated towards as a company, despite being a quest platform, but being more targeted, more data backed. So that is something that is very interesting in my head. And secondly, I think I've seen more focus towards in-game assets rather than just actually giving out rewards. So the classic gaming meta, right, of the conventional world, where you basically have more in-game assets that you earn the more you sort of progress in the game, and then you can kind of cash it out, but it's often if you hit a certain milestone, right, and not before that. So you kind of reduce the amount of times you can take the stuff out, which again is quite common in even Web3 games, but that is something that at least I've seen kind of get again revitalized, coming back and back into the mindset of the folks I'm speaking to.
It's good, it's healthy. Do you see a lot of projects out there that are happy to acquire bots? Projects that actually don't care whether they're acquiring a real user or a bot?
I think that's a very interesting question, right? And we kind of initially thought they didn't. Then there was a phase when they want bots, but now I think we've understood the exact behavior, right? And the behavior is kind of like this. So when you're starting up, because you want to raise funds, because you want to get traction, you're okay with bots, right? You're fine with bots coming to your ecosystem. Specifically, if you kind of make the bot charge the bot something, right, which could be fees for doing a transaction, stuff like that. In that case, you're kind of also still making revenue on top of the bots, right? And that revenue kind of be used to fund your treasuries and the entire team ops. So that's something that is there. But the moment the bot becomes a problem, it's when they want to actually distribute incentives. And we've seen that happen quite a lot. So not a gaming project, but Layer 0 did it quite well. So I famously remember Brian from the Layer 0 team kind of talking about how he's okay with bots in Civil, because as long as they're paying fees to the ecosystem, they're fine. But when it came to the final airdrop, before that, there was a pretty month-long, community witch hunting project of bots, right? And he kind of removed everything out and then kind of gave rewards to the real users. So that's basically the sweet balance. You're okay with bots engaging with the system, but you're not okay with rewarding them. Mm-hmm. If eventually this kind of picks up, then eventually bots will find this to be a negative expected value, right? That's right. And would therefore stop interacting with the system, and therefore the gain of this current unstable equilibrium is only going to last for a while.
When I think about it from the perspective of an attention dex of PTAL, and I talk about this with my co-founders, one thing that we're wondering is, maybe bots are okay. It's just a matter of pricing them correctly. Maybe people do want bots, but they just want to buy them at a discount compared to a human being.
Yeah, I think the behavior exists, right? So we have so many 2020, 21 shilling groups, right, where you can just post your project and then people follow you and there's like a raffle. The early days of Quest without any platform, right? So that's basically when you kind of acquire low quality users to just follow you, kind of like buying bot accounts, right? And therefore you obviously get them at a discount. So that behavior already exists in the market, but I think projects are not really open talking about it, right? I mean, they just feel that it might not be the best thing to talk about, but definitely a behavior, right? So I think I agree with you. In fact, we have had conversations with our partners. Our clients have actually told us that they're okay with bots, but not before the airdrop. So in that sense, it kind of makes sense. Like they know, everyone acknowledges like 50%, 60% traffic is bot. They're just okay with it
at minimum.
Yeah. So they're just okay with it, right? In fact, on our platform also, despite implementing so many anti-botting features, we still have a lot of bots, right? So that's there.
There's definitely only so much you can do. A lot of it is like it's like a dirty little secret that the space doesn't want to admit to itself, but everybody kind of knows in their heart of hearts that there's just a lot of bots here.
And the funny story is, no matter what algorithm or model you kind of create to prevent bots, if it's economically profitable, they'll find a way to exploit it, right? So therefore, you need to keep innovating, keep evolving your anti-botting systems as we have been doing as well. So yeah.
It's cat and mouse.
Yeah, the last question, right? And then I think, I'll jump into more casual conversation with you. So I think we talked about it even earlier in our AMA. Now this one's again something that I keep thinking about, especially because we see a lot of influx of DeFi projects and some GameFi projects. But how do you think community building for a GameFi project differ from other Web3 apps out there, right?
It's just more important. I think it's a lot more important than gaming, but I think the fundamentals of community building are probably pretty much the same. No matter what the DApp is, it's 4 like buckets, 4 steps, and so if I'm talking to a team that's really brand new at this, step 1 is to deploy your community infrastructure. So this is all of the top of funnel awareness and a landing zone for new community members who start to bump into that top of funnel awareness. So it's the really simple stuff like having your Discord, having your social media channels, having some type of brand blog, probably a Substack or something, some really early partnerships, developer docs, bids, things like that. That's your table stakes. Once you have that community infrastructure in place, then you move on to starting to share your vision. The whole goal with sharing your vision is creating opportunities for really motivated people who are going out on their own, to learn about you and explore what you're about and what you're doing. So this is when you start to deploy your white paper, really start to do your community branding, a lot of content creation. You as a founder spend a lot of time in your Discord. You're getting out doing PR, panels, podcasts, Twitter. So it's not super scalable, but you're going after these very motivated people who are looking for what you're building already. Why? Because those most motivated people will end up being your core community, which brings us to the third step, which is to onboard your core. And this is where you actually begin building super tight relationships with all these new people that are joining and engaging in your community. And there's a lot of ways that you can do that. Most important always, and I learned this from Jiho, my favorite growth guru mentioned earlier, is white glove onboarding. This is not a scalable activity, but when these new people are coming in your community, you should be building relationships with every single one of them. For the first 500 people, you can totally do that. You can also obviously start to get into your tokens and airdrops, community collabs, vampire attacks, community managers, things like that. That's onboard your core. Then finally, once you have this core community in place and they're rabid and they're very tight followers of you, then you unleash them. So step 4 is unleashing your community. This is where you get scalable. This is where your community becomes self-replicable. And you're fostering this sense of co-ownership amongst the community, and that empowers them to go evangelize your community on their own without you even being there to everyone else. And this is when you roll out your referral programs, community contests, social media contests, token distributions, NFT mints, you name it, all the things that can be done at scale. They happen here and unleash your community, but you can't get to this point until you do the first 3 and build this intense core community that feels like co-owners that become self-replicable.
Makes sense. Interesting. I think the fundamentals remain the same, right? But at least the way I would see how gaming differs from other categories, there's a lot of scope for user-generated content. I think the gaming communities differ in primarily the user-generated content bit. So the amount and the quality and the quantity of the user-generated content that can happen from gaming communities is something that probably cannot happen in any other category. And that kind of, really at least builds that human touch. And I think you talked about it earlier in one of our AMAs. We have seen this consistently. Human content works better on socials, right? and therefore if you're like a more human content, a more authentic gameplay screenshot or screen grab, right, it kind of drives more organic word of mouth about your community as compared to other sort of gaming other communities out there, especially DeFi, where it's just about making money, and it's essentially very dry. It's essentially if you're getting an ROI, you're there. But because of a game, you can actually have so much more. And I keep checking out Luke's Twitter profile, right, founder of Pixel, right, and he can keep kind of sharing these different parties that are happening on different Web3 games. In fact, they had a wedding in Pixel, I think, a couple of weeks back, right? That was super crazy, right? So these kind of things, right, which are like pretty interesting, pretty more organic, more authentic. So that's one thing that I think personally, at least I have felt is quite different being part of few gaming communities. I really enjoy that part more. And secondly, I think it's just also the kind of conversation that I have. So if you're again in a financially motivated community, you'll just talk about alpha, about where's the best liquidity APR, right? In this case, actually you would probably play poker, even though there's no relation of the game to poker, and those kind of more warm connections get established in a gaming community, because probably at least some percentage of the people who are there, actually the real users, they actually care about that outside of just making money. So those are the two differences that I have noticed. But I agree, the framework still remains the same.
I don't have a lot of experience in communities in Web3 communities outside of gaming, so those are good insights. Hard for me to compare.